dumbest thing someone ever told you that actually worked? Story 1. I worked for a courier company, and this happened to my boss. He was on a long delivery out in the country. We're from Virginia, but he's currently in Kentucky. We're pretty country ourselves, but not like this. This is pre-smartphone era. So he stops to talk to a local for directions. Guy said, go as far as you can see, twice, and there's your turn. My boss stared with bewilderment at the level of deliverance that just came out of this guy's mouth, but he fixed his eyes on a spot as far as he could see. He drove to that spot and made a mental note of the next farthest spot he could see. Upon arriving at the second spot, dead on was the little unmarked turn he was looking for. We still quote it to this day. Go as far as you can see, twice. Story 2. I read a newspaper article about a guy who went to his local convenience store and bought 2 lottery tickets. Most people in that situation would play different numbers on each ticket in order to double their minuscule chance of winning. Not this guy. He was interviewed and said he believed that playing the same numbers on both tickets would double down his chance, showing somehow that he was really serious about wanting those numbers to win. So that's what he did, but it turned out that he actually did have the winning numbers for that drawing, and he owned 2 out of the 3 winning tickets. Therefore, he was entitled to walk home with 2/3 of the jackpot, instead of just half. Story 3. Got a fuel pump for a very old S10. Put in the truck, it did not work. Googled problem. Lots of other people having same issue with same fuel pump, and no answer. Some random guy on a S10 forum that I found on page 3 of Google posted 10 years ago that the instructions were wrong on that fuel pump. You need to connect the red wire to the black one and not the green one like the instructions said. Worked instantly. Story 4. I had a headache at work years ago at a previous job. I almost never get headaches, so it was me off because I couldn't ignore it. My coworker, I can get rid of it. Come here, it'll squeeze your head. It'll squeeze your head. And sure enough, he grabbed my head and squeezed the sides so hard I thought he was going to fracture my skull. Then he squeezed from front and back. Him better. That headache was gone and never came back. Now, I go around curing my coworkers' headaches. Everyone thinks I'm nuts until it works. Story 5. That the 10C per copy Xerox machine at my high school that gave change for dollars and dimes would accept Xerox dollar bills in the bill changer. The Secret Service gave the school a visit to explain to us how bad a crime counterfeiting was. Story 6. If you find yourself obsessing about something, set a date and stretch a time to worry about it. I have no idea why, but that was the only thing let me set something down in my mind and sleep one night. It was a piece of advice my mother gave me a few days earlier. Ironically, it was something else Shed said to me that was the source of the worry. Story 7. One day, I came home from work, and there was this little white box sitting on the counter. I asked my wife, what is this thing? She said, it's a box that emits a high-pitched sound that only cats can hear, and it will keep Spike off the counters. Me, how much did you pay for this magic box? Wife, it was $50. Me, $50 for a magic box that's not going to work. Can you return it? Wife, let's just see if it works, and it'll return it if it doesn't. I ate my words. This was 10 years ago, and my cat got up on the counter one time after he got the box, and then never again. The box doesn't even work anymore. I think it's not even plugged in anyway. Still, the cat won't go near it. Sorcery. Story 8. If you drop something and can't find it, drop another and watch where it falls. Worked great twice while tiling my bathroom. Didn't work so good when I dropped a winch handle off the boat. Story 9. I officiate golf tournaments. This involves long hours of sitting in a golf cart. Then when I had to get out ID, be very stiff, a friend told me to put a towel down and sit on it. And I wouldn't be as stiff. How could that work? I'm just sitting there not moving, not even driving the cart around. Well, it does work. ID get out, and I wouldn't be stiff. Story 10. If your cat loses interest in his cat bed or scratching post, don't get rid of it. Just move it to a new location in your house. The cat will find it and use it again. Story 11. Old UK stuff, but when youngish, I was told that if you held 8 10-pence coins together and wrapped them 2.5 times with black electrician's tape, and then sliced through with a razor blade, that's how old this is, vending machines would accept them as 50-pence coins, a 5-fold increase. We didn't believe it, but tried it and experimented with a jukebox in a pub. And it actually worked. The only problem was that a guy turned up to empty the money box while we were there. He picked them up and looked suspiciously around the pub while we pretended not to notice. I believe there were a number of other related incidents around the Leicester area at the time. Story 12. As a welder, an old welder told me if your eyes get flash burned to put raw potato slices on your eyes and it will stop the pain. It works, but don't ask me why. Story 13. When having anxiety or a panic attack, put your hands in cold running water. It helps with causing a sensory ground. You focus on the sensation of the cold water. Story 14. When my firstborn was an infant, a friend told me that an old native woman said that to keep your baby from crying when you lay them in their crib to sleep, you should move your hand in a circle in the air near them, while slowly backing up and widening the circle until you leave the room. It sounded like a bunch of hooey, but my friends swore by it, and Don Gate if it didn't work every time, no idea why. But my kids were all good sleepers. Side note that I certainly always would respond if they woke up and cried because I wanted them to know that I was there if they needed me. But that didn't happen much either. Story 15 is your dog afraid of the vacuum cleaner. Punish the vacuum in front of the dog. Hit it and tell it how bad it is. Get really mad at it. Put it in its place. I can't believe this actually works, but it does. Story 16, I got a ganglion cyst on my wrist. The medical professionals recommended surgery. My mom's wife and nurse recommended hitting it with a book. The book worked. Story 17, general knowledge, my father. When I was a kid, if you want to know if the spaghetti is done, throw some at the wall. If it sticks, it's done. Personal anecdote me in 1992 to a friend, hey, you said I can borrow your truck, just need the keys. No, you don't. Use your keys. They'll work. And they did. Lots of keys would start his truck. Story 18, if you can't find something and you know it's right in front of you somewhere, walk away for a minute or two, then come back. You'll find it right away. It's easy to get tunnel vision when looking for something, especially when you get frustrated. Stepping back to reset your brain does wonders. Then you get kind of mad since whatever you were looking for is sitting right there where you were looking. Story 19, my therapist told me to give myself permission to grieve later because I was grieving something that hadn't happened yet. It sounded so obvious when she said it because she said you're going to grieve it later. It hasn't happened yet. So give yourself permission to grieve later and to not right now. Bizarrely, it worked for the most part. And I give myself permission to do other things later, to worry, get mad, cry, etc. Somehow the act of consciously telling myself I can do it later makes it not so overwhelming right now. Story 20, I tell people this, sick and congested. Salsa, hot salsa. Have some good hot salsa and chips. It cleared my congestion for a few hours, and nothing at the drugstore would even touch it. Plus, there's no dosage limit. Have as much as you like. Hot and sour soup also works well. Any spicy food should work. Really? Story 21, I was traveling for work and at the Pittsburgh airport. Made a stop in a restroom that has those automatic sink fixtures. The sink wasn't dispensing water or soap, and the custodian told me to hit it until it works. I was successful in my attempts to beat automatic sink fixtures to dispense water and soap with a slap or two from then on. Story 22, we had a TV that had a video card or whatever is in a TV that shows the images that had connections that were faulty. My husband read online to take it out of the TV and bake it. It softened the solder and made the TV work again. We did that several times, and finally the TV did die. Story 23, my third grade teacher, Mrs. Thrillkill, her real name, told us that if you want to remember something, repeat it quickly in your mind at least 3 times or more, and you will remember it. I've used this trick successfully for 50 years. Story 24, backseat, while a friend of friend was driving us somewhere in downtown Philly. We're trying to find parking and see a space finally. The wrong end of a one-way street, though. I tell the friend of friend to just throw it in reverse and back up down the one-way. Jokingly, she slams it into reverse. We back it up, she parallel parks it just fine. A cop sitting on the street watched the whole thing and didn't move a muscle. Story 25, my husband and I used to live in an apartment, 4-floor apartment, with a balcony that was over a greenhouse. The actual greenhouse had walls around it and was gated. Never saw anyone going in or out of there. One day, while I was out having a smoke, a strong gust of wind came and blew my cap off my head, which did a boomerang in the wind for a moment before dropping directly below me on the roof of the greenhouse. I really love that hat. It was a beautiful, purple, full round ball cap that I got traveling. I go inside to tell my husband, who doesn't seem to care much. I quickly scramble for ideas on how to get it back. I can't think of a single thing, and realize that unless I get the gates unlocked and a ladder, there's no way I'm getting it back. I would have made peace with this if the hat wasn't directly in my line of vision. So I'd have to stare at it every day. A storm was coming, so I knew if I just waited until tomorrow to see if I could find my way in, the hat would be ruined anyway. I considered jumping off my balcony to get it, but it was a glass roof, so no bueno. My husband then comes up with this idea. This was in Japan, so we had these things which are futon clamps. A lot of folks in Japan sleep on futons, which are like the vet's cross with mattresses. In the morning, people usually throw them over the railing to air out and use a futon clamp to anchor them. Husband grabs the clamp, opens it up, and holds the teeth open with a chopstick. He then ties 2 bath towel belts together and fasten it to the clamp. He tells me he's going to throw the clamp into the wind, so that when it lands on my hat, it will knock the chopstick out and fasten to the hat. I was upset, so I told him off and went to mope. 2 minutes later, he comes back with my hat. Story 26, if you make a list of everything you have to do, and always write down anything that comes to your mind on the same list, you will not worry about forgetting things. Once it's written down on a list that you know you're going to look at, your brain stops keeping an open tab for it. Story 27, I couldn't figure out how to keep my cat from jumping up onto my shelf and yeeting my plants off the shelf. They were hardy plants, so they survived, but they took quite a beating. My aunt suggested I buy some citrus-scented air freshener and spray the shelf every few days. I thought ain't no way, but I didn't want my plants to die, so I tried it. Be damned if it didn't work flawlessly. It's worked for 3 whole years now. Story 28, when you experience bad turbulence on an airplane, lift your feet up. The movement of your feet messes with your mind and makes it freak out. So if you lift them, your anxiety goes down instantly. Always works for me. But if it doesn't quite do the trick, I recommend ordering a few beers in quick succession. Story 29, folding a drawing from a hat-style ticket accordion style increases its volume in the bag and prevents from being stuck between others. I used it in middle school and won a CD player. Story 30, housemate lost her cat, was devastated, put up missing posters. An anonymous person contacted her and told her to go out in the middle of the night, yell the cat's name, and then be quiet and listen. She found the cat. It was stuck in the neighbor's shed. Story 31, I have ADHD and seriously struggle with remembering to brush my teeth before bed. Someone told me to put my toothpaste in the sink, so I would have to physically pick it up and move it out of the way to use the sink. Once toothpaste is in my hand, ITLL remind me to actually use it. Sure enough, totally works. I usually have to use the bathroom around the time I get ready for bed. Story 32, if you put a damp paper towel around a canned bottle before putting it in the freezer, it will chill faster. I thought it was stupid until I tried it. Then I realized it actually kind of makes sense, because the water in the paper towel is essentially acting as a conductor for the cold air temperature in the freezer. Story 33, doing something half-assed is better than not doing it at all a lot of the time. Like 45 seconds of brushing your teeth is better than not brushing them. Taking a shower but not washing your hair is better than not showering. Cleaning a small area of your house is better than doing nothing. Story 34, holding a small stone to the beak on chicken, then moving it away slowly will hypnotize it. We had chickens at one point. A joker at work told me this. I didn't believe it for the longest time, but finally tried it, and it'll be damned. It worked weird. Story 35, put plastic wrap in the freezer, and it will come off the roll without wadding up into a ball of itself. Of course, you have to let it warm up to room temperature to wrap your food, but it doesn't take too long. Story 36, to hold my phone under running cold water from the tap, to rinse it off. After it suffered an unfortunate incident with some lemonade and stopped working. The phone was not waterproof. It still worked. Disclaimer, this was an old Nokia, and those things were indestructible. Story 37, if you place 2 slices of bread in the same toaster slot, you get toast that is chewy on one side and crunchy on the other. You are sincerely welcome for this one. Story 38, grape jelly in the meatball recipe. It's something about sweet bases that bring out more complex flavors in meat. I've yet to see the meat that a sweet marinade couldn't make better. Story 39, an old lady in a nursing home told me you can stir a cup of cocoa or an instant breakfast using a fork. It really works so much better, and I've been doing that ever since. Story 40, my dad has been known to say, pain is relative. If you don't want pain somewhere, apply pain somewhere else. So occasionally, if something's bothering, I'll pinch myself elsewhere, and it's worked so far for me. Story 41, trying to make weight in high school wrestling. If there was a final ounce you were over at weigh-in, after you've tried every possible way of getting weight off and out of your body, as a last resort you would stand on your head right before you got back on the scale, and I swear to God it worked. Story 42, strap a mini GoPro camera to a chicken's head and hold the chicken while boating, biking, running, etc., and your footage will be very well stabilized, because chickens just naturally adjust themselves to hold their heads in one place when moving, video proof. Story 43, tired of procrastinating. Got told to set a time to do 2 things you've been dreading sequentially with what you were most dreading last. You'll find the first thing much easier to get to, and even if you don't get to the second, at least you got one done. Story 44, have a jar with a stuck lid. Smack the side of the lid against the counter a few times. It should allow you to easily pop off the lid right after. If not, smack a few more times and twist. Hasn't failed me before. Taught my so this. And now, she doesn't need me anymore. TT. Story 45, a building manager once told me that if someone ever constantly complains about something they do not control, give them a fake dial, button, or anything so they have the illusion of control. He had balanced all his temp sensors perfectly in a building and got complaints down to all but one woman. So for her, he installed a thermostat near her desk and said if you feel hot or cold. Just adjust this. He never wired it up, but the complaint stopped. Story 46, when I was processing my PTSD, a therapist told me that 2 things could be true at once. It really helped me process conflicting feelings towards people who I loved that abused me. Felt like a really simple thing to just be realizing at 27. Story 47. If you get something spicy in your eye, rub your hair in it. If it's long enough, the oils neutralize the spiciness and stops the burning. Heard it from a lady I used to work with in the kitchen. Sounds dumb, but it works. Story 48. If you lose your dog somewhere outside of your property, meaning somewhere unfamiliar to you or the dog, drop down a piece of clothing you or someone the dog knows was wearing on the ground where you last saw the dog. It might be a little while till they come back, especially if they were scared off by something, and you might have to leave the area, but if your dog is lost and truly wants to come home, they will be at whatever you leave. One time I went hunting with my uncle, and I brought my dog. He was a Great Dane and a big OL baby. Right at the end of the trip, around the evening, we finally found a deer and fired off a shot, and my dog panicked and bolted into the woods, called his name, tried to get him to come back, did everything I could think of for half an hour, but I couldn't find him, and I had no idea where he was. So I took my shirt off and dropped it at the edge of the woods. I unfortunately had to return home for the night. I would have stayed there all night if I could. But the next morning, as soon as I woke up, I got dressed and hopped in my car and drove back to the spot I left my shirt at. And there he was, laying on top of the shirt. He was so happy when I came back, and I was so happy to find him. Story 49, my cousin told me that if you have hiccups, have someone stare into your eyes and ask you when you're going to hiccup next. I laughed it off initially, but when I next got hiccups, I jokingly asked my mom to try it with me. And IT works. When nothing else can get rid of my hiccups, it does it every time. I chalk it up to eye contact, and having to concentrate on the hiccups to answer when they are coming is some sort of placebo effect that changes your breathing pattern. Story 50, my son had an ear infection, got drops from the doctor, used the drops till finished about a week, and the ear was worse. Made appointment with doctor, told my neighbor about son's earache. She told me to squeeze onion juice in his ear. Asked doctor at next appointment, he shrugged and said it couldn't hurt. Took son home, warm an onion in the microwave to make it juicy. Had son lie good ear down on the table and squeeze juice in the infected ear. Next morning, there's no pain or sign-off infection. After that, whenever any of my children had an earache, I went straight to the juice, cleared up ear by the next day. Every single time, years later, I found out that it was what mothers used in England back in the day. Story 51, PC monitor didn't want to turn on whatever I did. After trying everything the troubleshooting forums said, I've seen a step worded like ID, have to unplug and plug in again. Then I pulled the cables out and put them back in, and it worked. I've been restarting the PC and turning off in the monitor, but it didn't work XD. Happened twice by now, and worked both times. Ick what it is with that monitor, LOL. Story 52, for kids toddler age and after, just go to bed. When we were done with the baby routine, my daughter was still active weird times of day. Instead of endlessly trying to get her to bed, stories, water, milk, cuddles, nothing worked some days. I got us both ready and went to bed myself. She was a bit confused at first, but quickly followed, and that was the start of a very nice routine. Story 53, my dad told me that if I'm ever without my glasses, I can curl my thumb and index finger into a tiny pinhole and look through the hole, and I'll be able to see clearly enough to read at a distance. It sounds cockamamie, but works. Story 54, eating raw garlic drops your blood pressure instantly to normal levels, but not below what's proper, and there's no medicine even close to that. The smell repels mosquitoes, flies, and humans. It's like a recipe to live forever, but alone. Story 55, if peeling onions is making your eyes burn and water. Wash your hands under running water with a stainless steel spoon, can provide relief. It doesn't have to be a spoon as long as it's stainless steel. Story 56, I did not know how to ride a bike in my mid-20s and asked some friends to teach me, but it took time. So one of them suggested I buy a used bike even without knowing how to ride. I did. And I just learned alone. It was weird, and at first I thought it was stupid, but it worked. Story 57, so someone once told me to fix my slow computer by smacking it on the side. I thought they were trolling, but in a desperate moment, I gave it a good OL. Lo and behold, the thing sprang back to life like it just needed a wake-up call. Turns out percussive maintenance is a real thing. Who knew? Story 58, I had an issue with raccoons in my shed. When I would confront them, they would stand up on their hind legs and throw down, come at me, bro. It got so bad that I dreaded going to the shed for the snowblower or lawnmower. They were very bold. I was told to put a small radio in the shed and set it to talk radio. I had an old alarm clock with my painting gear, so I set it up and tuned in to CBC Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. As dry as it gets, apparently raccoons don't like the sound of talking humans. And then moved on. This was after a 2-year battle. I recommended this to my uncle who had raccoons in his attic. Same result, success. Story 59, putting mustard on a burn. Got burned pretty bad on my thumb trying to light some old sparklers for a kid. Someone said to put mustard on it. Thought it was stupid, but I did it. It was honestly miraculous. No blister the next day. Have passed this weird secret mystery cure on ever since with repeat results. No idea why it works. Story 60. If you want to earn a cat's trust, blink slowly at them. It sounds really stupid. It feels even dumber to do it. But it actually works. It takes a little time and repetition, but it actually works. The reasoning goes thusly: cats stare wide-eyed and unblinking at things they feel might be a threat. They won't blink or look away in case you do something while they aren't looking. To take their eyes off of you means that they trust you not to hurt them while they aren't looking. So to show trust, cats blink slowly, leaving their eyes closed for a few seconds. If you do this back at them, it shows them that you trust them not to hurt you. And in order to earn a cat's trust, you must first show that you trust the cat. So if you're ever having trouble with a mistrustful, shy, or aggressive cat, blink slowly at them. Story 61. I told a coworker that spraying her windshield washer fluid on a frosted window in the morning thaws it faster than waiting for the car to warm up and thaw it. She called me dumb. She tries it a few days later and tells me it changed her life. Story 62. Fans went out on my MacBook back in like 2011, which rendered it nearly unusable. I was really hoping I wouldn't have to bring it into an Apple store for repairs since they can be quite pricey, so I started looking up some fixes to fan issues. Came across some guy on YouTube who showed where the fans were physically located just under the number bar of the keyboard, and that sometimes hair or dust can get in there and get wrapped up in the spools, causing them to stop spinning. He said the only way to fix it was to just pound on the computer a few times, and it would usually shake it loose. I thought it was a troll and didn't expect to get any results, of course, but I figured I might as well give it a shot. Gave it a few love taps, and instantly the fans hummed back to life, and I never had another problem with them again for the entire time I had that computer. Story 63. If you have an important email or document you've been working on, before you submit it, read it one last time from bottom up. This will trick your brain into thinking it's a new document, and you'll catch things your eyes skipped over previously. Story 64. My washer wasn't turning on. Then I read online that I needed to open and close the door 10 times to reset it, which just sounds like something a crazy person would do. I did it, and it worked. Did not question it. Story 65. In Julian, California, there is a famous bakery that probably makes the best apple pie in America. I was told to try it with a slice of sharp cheddar cheese on it. I was skeptical, but tried it. I don't know how you improve upon perfection, but that sure as did it. Story 66. I was gutting the entire interior of a car one time, a car from the 80s. Under the carpet of the interior, there was this black, kind of tar bass sound, deadening material. I sat there for hours trying to scrape it out with a heat gun and some scraper tools in an attempt to get the interior down to bare metal. A friend of mine came over and, after a few minutes of watching me, said, "Let's go to the grocery store and get some dry ice." We broke the dry ice down into small pieces and spread it out over the interior, making sure to cover all the stuff I had left to scrape. After a few minutes, we hit it maybe 7 to 10 times with a rubber mallet, and it all came out in huge chunks in less than 30 seconds. I had never been so pissed relieved. Story 67. We have so many of these in medicine. One I use all the time is if you're nauseated, waving an alcohol swab under your nose makes you feel so much better. Also see Coca-Cola in a clogged tub. Story 68. I told a cop in my hometown that I didn't even know what the speed limit on a local road was. It was true, LOL. He just told what it was and to follow it. A sign later went up on that road with the limit written on it. Story 69. If you're a new mom and intend on breastfeeding, know that the first days that your baby sucks will for many women hurt your nipples. Babies vary very hard when they are hungry, and your nipples have to toughen up to get used to this, so soreness is normal. Dutch midwives and neonatal nurses have a solution that really does help cabbage leaves. You take some cabbage leaves, cut out the hard center stalks, crunch up the leaves, and then stuff them into your nursing bra. The juice in the leaves really helps with the tenderness and pain until your nipples toughen up. I laughed at the idea, but 4 sons later all breastfed. I can assure you it works. I have to warn you that you will smell of cabbage for a while, but the relief from I was so worth it. Story 70. If you have to stuff insulation, cover yourself in baby powder to help prevent the horrible itching that comes from fiberglass. When I was an apprentice and had to do miles of insulation, a journeyman told me that trick, and I figured he was with me. One of those gave me a bucket of steam to stud Polar Sky hook gags, Yano, and then he started pouring baby powder down his shirt, and I realized he was telling the truth. The baby powder helps keep the fiberglass out of your pores, and so you don't itch nearly as much. I stuff insulation in a short sleeve shirt and cover my arms, neck, shoulders, and waistline with baby powder. It's a freaking godsend. Story 71. WD-40 as a fly repellent for cattle. I had a show steer get dehorned, and the side with a larger wound was attracting hordes of flies. They were making it heal slowly and scar worse than the other side. Someone said to spray his head with WD-40, and it fucking worked. No more flies. Kept it covered, and it closed up quick. Story 72 bought a car. Since the battery was changed out, the whole radio was locked. Huge bummer. The dealership wouldn't help. It seemed near impossible to get the unlock code. On a forum somewhere, someone mentioned that this lock code is so hard to recuperate that most people write it in their car. Search everywhere for a 4-digit code. It was written on the spare tire in white Sharpie. Story 73, when I had the hiccups, a friend told me, "You're not a fish." I said, "What?" And she explained that the reason that we hiccup is a leftover reaction from when we had gills, and how it's us subconsciously reacting to being out of water or something like that. I'm 98 sure the reasoning is bull, but it actually worked. From that point on, if I have the hiccups, I tell myself I am not a fish in a stern tone, and the hiccups go away. It's crazy, but it freaking works. Story 74, the advice wasn't dumb, but I was dumb. So thought the advice was dumb. I was at the beach for an event, and it was a hot day. I was so hot that I removed my shirt and hat so that the slight breeze could cool me down. When the party I was with told me to put my shirt back on, put a towel over my head so it draped over my neck, pour water over the towel, and put the hat back on. In other words, add layers of warm clothing. Well, it worked. Now that I'm old, I follow this advice every time I go to the beach. Story 75, putting your car's keys fob under your chin doubles the range to the signal of your car. Learned that when I worked at a dealership as a car porter when I was 18, your head becomes the antenna. Story 76, 3 regular Altoids at once when you're super congested. No joke, I heard my sinuses snap, and even though I was sick, I breathed clearly for hours and hours. Story 77, if you are asked for a membership phone number in a retail store, try your local area code. Then 867-5309, like from a song. It is really stupid, but I've saved a lot of money by doing that. Story 78, when one of my AirPods suddenly stopped working, someone told me to rub the speaker with isopropyl alcohol, and then on it like a straw. AirPod was working like it was brand new. I do this every couple weeks now, for both AirPods. Story 79, animal trainer told me not to take my puppy out every 2 to 3 hours to let him pee. Told me to stretch it out, because the bladder is a muscle, kind of use it or lose it type of thing. He might have had an accident or two, but he's 6 years old. And the only dog I know that can go 12 hours and not have to go pee, I give him the opportunity, but the boy's got a strong bladder as a result of not undertraining it. Story 80, my keyless car fob battery was dying, and my car wouldn't turn on. I was stuck in a parking lot of a restaurant in the dead of winter. A kind couple saw I was struggling, and a lady says, "Press the on button, but use your key fob to push the button low." And behold, it worked. Got home safe, and changed the battery ASAP. Story 81, not me who was told, but was present. Friend was building new PC, wasn't turning on, non-techie friend joked to flip over the power supply. It worked. Story 82, to get rid of a wart. Peel a potato, take a piece of the skin right before going to bed, rub it on the wart, bury it. Has to be a full moon when you bury it. The wart will fall off within 3 days. This has worked more than once in my family. Works for males, not for females. Weird, don't skip class, do the readings and assignments. Story 83, I was a ski patroller for 20 years, and one we heard worked about 50 of the time. If you suffer from migraines, fill 2 bowls of water, one with about as hot as you could stand, but still be able to keep your hand in, and the other with ice water, some cubes and all. Put your hands in them at the same time. Your brain senses the difference and can adjust the pressure in your head. Story 84, I work tech support for a software publisher, mainly on a software used by hotels. We could also provide hardware and maintenance on it. Support was $247. One weekend, my colleague received a panic call from one of our client hotel's employee. The software was not working, and it was quickly identified as a server issue on premise. He instructed the employee to restart the server. She did, but after sometimes the server powered down on its own, no monitor plugged, employee wasn't tech savvy at all, so not much we could do any other day. I think we would have dispatched one of our partner on site to solve this, but it's quite the process. I think that's what motivated my colleague to give her the following instructions: restart the server as many times as it doesn't start up. Told the guy he was mean, she didn't know better, and would probably waste a lot of time doing that, and we would have to dispatch a partner eventually. Well, not more than half an hour later, the girl calls back to thank him. She was proud to state she had to restart it 7 times before it worked. I am speechless to this day, and it's been something like 15 years since. Still talk to that colleague as we became friends, and it's brought up from time to time.